is the Phylanice Nashe Experience podcast. Hello, world, and welcome to Season 2 of the Phylanice Nashe Experience podcast, an audio series of lighthearted and sometimes third-eye-opening conversations on entrepreneurship and leadership from the African-American perspective. I am your host, Phylanice Nashe. Welcome. My guest today is a highly in-demand comic who performs around the country as a corporate entertainer and can also be found on stage in some of the country's most prominent comedy clubs. He has worked with some of the biggest names in comedy, including Loni Love, Ralphie May, Rosie O'Donnell, Arsenio Hall, Earthquake, Charlie Murphy, Gilbert Gottfried, and Kevin Hart, just to name a few. He uses his improvisation skills and his life experience as a husband, father, and generally very confused man to relate to his audience in a hilarious montage of miscommunication and everyday observations. He is a native Nashvilleian and calls Zanies Nashville his home club. I have seen him live, and I could not stop laughing. He is hilariously funny, but super down to earth. The Nashes call him Big Mike. So please give a warm Phylanice Nashe Experience welcome to Mike James.
I appreciate that. That was nice. I appreciate those kind
You like
words.
That? Should we go on tour? Can I do all
Yeah,
your
absolutely. Yeah, let's do that. Let's make it happen.
How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm glad you're and very happy that you are on the show.
Oh yeah.
So tell me, because comedy is an in-person type of scenario, right? Like you can watch it on TV, but I love being in the comedy club. How's Corona, the COVID pandemic, affected business, and are things getting back to the way it should be?
I mean, it's getting there, but I mean, it's still not there. We got a ways to go. I mean, they still a little worried about coming out. Clubs are still, they still have to go by whatever the law is in their city. But I mean, we're gonna get back. For a while it was a complete shutdown. Clubs were not booking. We couldn't do anything for about 3.5 months, 4 months. We were just shut down. So it was tough. Everybody felt it.
Was there a way to pivot? So I bring this up because if anyone has not seen your Ring commercial, please tell us how that came about. That was so cute and so funny because you had the baby's microphone with the light, and I'm just like, oh, that is so cute. So how did that even come about, Mike?
I mean, really, it was just boredom. But just not being able to get on stage. I know a lot of people were doing a lot of the Zoom comedy shows, and people are still doing it. That was never for me. Like I just could never, it's kind of you got to feel the crowd. At least I do. I mean, I got to be able to feel the crowd. And I was just bored and just like, I got to get this out. And I remember Martin Lawrence had a album out called Funk It. And on that album, at the beginning, he said he used to go door to door and tell jokes. And I was just like that, how would I do that with it, getting it recorded? So I just started, we had a Ring doorbell, started there and just started going to people's houses with rings.
So how many houses? I think in the commercial itself, you had like 3 homes that you went. How many did you actually go to and record?
I think I did like 4.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wanted to do it like once a week. What happened was the club started opening up, so it was like, well, I started going back to the clubs.
Yeah.
Wasn't really, the whole point of it was nobody's able to do comedy, so let me bring it to you.
So I'm gonna, if you still have the link, I want to post that link with the show notes so everyone can see it because it was hilarious.
Thank you. I'll send it to you.
And it was like there was no one responding to you, so you're like, all right, that's my time.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. So I will make sure that you get that to me, and I will definitely put that in the show notes.
I'll do it.
So who is Mike James? I know the Mike James that I thought I knew before I
Right,
saw
right.
you on stage.
Right. Two different people, right?
Two totally different people. And I was
Yeah,
just like, oh my, I was so nervous because, the, you're normally just a real cool down to earth, not really saying too much. And then you got
right.
up on stage and I was like,
Yeah.
snap, go Mike, go. So tell my people, tell my listeners, tell my watchers your origin story. Who is Mike James? How the hell did you get into comedy? Who inspired you? Like, how did this all come about?
Right. It was a roundabout way. So, I mean, I was born and raised in Nashville, Haynes Mountain. Uh, and, I just always, like making people laugh, try to get the girls, make them laugh. Uh, it never worked, but I always tried. And um, I just started watching like Richard Pryor and just was always watching him. I watched him to the point where I wouldn't even, like, I knew his jokes by heart. And like
Mhm.
Live from Sunset Strip, I knew it by heart. And without even knowing it, I was studying what he was doing. And then me and my now wife, at the time she was just my girlfriend. We went to her family reunion in Orlando, and one of the days we went to the Orlando Improv. They were having a showcase. It's like an open mic, and they had some people there that weren't good. They had some people that were pretty good, and then they had the headliner, which he was amazing. But the people that weren't good, I was just like, I'm better than him. I can do this.
Mm.
And I told my wife, and she was just like, yeah, you can do it, which I really don't think because like you said, I'm like different. I'm real shy. I really don't say much. So how would I be able to get in front of a crowd of people?
Right,
Uh,
right.
but I felt like I could do it. And when I saw the headliner, this guy named what was his name? Tight Mike. I saw him, and the way he commanded the stage and controlled the crowd, I was like, that's what I want. I want that. Um, it took me 2 years from that point to
Hmm.
to get the nerve to go up, but that's when I started doing it. And it's, first time I did it, I was just like, oh, this feels like home.
So how did the crowd react on the first time? Did they go crazy?
The first time it was at a place called the Bar Car, um,
Okay.
downtown. And I mean, it was an open mic. It wasn't, it may have been about 30, 40 people there. And I mean, the guy that brought me on stage, uh, he let them know that it was my first time. So they were nice about it. They let me do my thing. They gave me some sympathy laughs, I guess. And then, but to me, I felt like this is what I'm supposed to be doing when I got up there.
Mm-hmm.
Which, it was all because the only reason why I went up there is because I had lied and told the guys at Zanies that I had been doing comedy a year, and they booked me to do a showcase at Zanies. So I had to at least get on some stage before I went to Zanies.
Right. Fake
Yeah.
it till you make it.
Yeah. That's
Fake
what,
it till you.
that's
I
what you got to
love
do.
it. Well, okay, so let's rewind because you talked about Alisha,
Hmm.
and as you know, as most people know who've been following the show, Alisha was on in season 1,
Hmm.
episodes 4 and 5, and I think 5 was the one that we kind of talked about. Help, I'm a startup spouse. So we
Hmm.
talked about you
Right.
and your business and entrepreneurship journey. So I want to go full 60. So we've
Hmm.
heard her side of the story. Tell us how you were able to convince Alisha that this is like your passion. Like, are you going full throttle? Or are you going to 9 to 5 it with, doing this on the side? Like, what was the plan? Like, how do you, because most of us don't know comedians, right?
Right.
So how do you develop your business? How do you develop your marketing and all of that? How do you do that? What was
Um, well, I mean, initially I was working. I mean, it wasn't like I was getting booked. When you first start, you're not getting booked. And I mean, I tell like a lot of newer comedians, they got the wrong idea about what we're doing. They think, you know, they should be making money as soon as they start telling jokes, and it's just not the way it works. I mean, once you start, you're not funny. So who's gonna book you? Nobody's gonna pay you to see you not be funny. So it takes time. It takes years, actually. So I mean, at the time I was working, and I just continued to work, and you know, I would get booked here and there. You know, I couldn't get in at Zanies really, other than just doing showcases. Um, and it was a club called Jazz and Jokes. It was downtown.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of our club. It was more of a Black club. And I mean, that was our home. So, you know, I really cut my teeth there. Shout out to AG, Black Rob, uh, all them guys that was there, man. Joe Johnson. I mean, they gave me an opportunity to work on my craft and get better. I mean, the whole time I was there, I was still trying to get in at Zanies, you know, and I mean, it was a struggle.
Is
It was,
Zanies considered like like a top shelf
yeah.
club that you want to get into?
Yeah,
Okay.
Zanies is it. I mean, Zanies, you'll hear a lot of, Zanies is considered one of the best clubs in the country. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you
Because there's
know,
multiple locations.
there is, but the Zanies Nashville is, I mean, because there are different owners here,
Mm.
the Dorfmans, and you know, you'll hear it's a guy named Joe Rogan. He tours with Dave Chappelle too. He has a huge podcast,
He
and you know,
does.
he talks about Zanies all the time on there. I mean, it's a really good club. If you're a comedian, you definitely want to work there.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, if you're an in-town comedian and you're new, then you're not gonna really have an opportunity to get in. You gotta find a way, and you gotta be persistent. You gotta find a way. So while I was doing all that, I was still working, and the job I was at, uh, they were laying off, which came at a time that I was like, well, you know, maybe this is the time
Mm-hmm.
we can use to, you know, we just had a baby, so maybe this is a time we can use to kind of, you know, try this. And you know, it wasn't the best time. I mean, that's kind of what entrepreneurship is, kind of trial and
Right.
error. I
Right.
mean, and it wasn't the best time. So at some point I went back to work. Um, and then I started getting booked enough where it was like I can leave now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you know, we talked about it, and you know, that's what happened. You know, my daughter, we had our second child by this time, and we kind of needed somebody at home during the day. We just kind of had to figure out our own little schedule and kind of play off each
Right.
other and figure it out. I mean, and that's what if you two entrepreneurs, you both got to figure it out. I mean, it's gonna,
That's right.
yeah, this is a
But
little.
did you find that the entrepreneurship journey for both of you allowed the flexibility to kind of, you know, one being home during the day and one
Mhm.
pick up later on, and just able to match the need?
Absolutely, absolutely, and now it's a lot different. I mean, you know, the way our schedules are. I mean, this is of course pre-COVID when we were traveling,
Mm-hmm.
but we always would try to, you know, I would try to make sure I booked stuff when she was in town. She would try to make sure that she booked stuff, you know, when I was kind of make sure at least one of
Yep.
us are at home. And it doesn't always work out like that. Sometimes, you know, we're both gone. Sometimes we've done it where, you know, she may be in a city and I would get booked in that city so we could both go at the same time. Sometimes we take the whole family. I mean, just, you know, we just try to make
That's
it work.
man, I love that. I love that work-life balance. I
Yeah,
love that. Love
yeah.
that. So what would you describe as your comedic style?
Uh, my style is like real laid back. I mean, it kind of mirrors who I am, but to a certain degree. I mean, as far as being laid back, that's me. But the confidence that I have on stage is not the same confidence off stage.
Right.
It's kind of like, I mean, on stage is different. I can feel the crowd. I know I'm confident in what I'm saying. I believe in what I'm saying. I don't have any insecurities or anything. I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm good. It's not a situation that I don't feel prepared for on stage. Now, off stage is completely different. I guess, I'm nervous and, it's just
Yeah. Like a normal person.
right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, but on stage, it just feels like I'm a superhero up there. I don't worry about anything up there.
So your material, is it everyday type of stuff, or how do you come up with your material?
And just, oh my gosh, you've met my kids, right? You met
Yes.
my wife,
They're
like,
so cute. Yes.
yeah,
The
yeah.
babies
So
are adorable. Yes.
yeah, they are adorable. But at the same time, it's like there is so much material there. And then, now I've gotten to the point where I don't. I used to just try to be funny because when I started, there's a lady named Retha Jones. She's like a Comic View legend. She was
Mm-hmm.
always on Comic View, Def Jam, stuff like that. So when I first started, I recorded a video. I think I had been on stage like 3 times. I recorded my video and I sent it to her just to get feedback from her. And her feedback to me was, well, she said it's a little dirty, but don't worry, don't focus on that. She just said, right now, all you need to focus on is learning how to be funny. So I started doing that. I just was focused on being funny and I just wanted to get funny. And then I did a show, I worked with Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah.
And she was telling me, she was like, you're hilarious, but you're not memorable. Nobody can see you and say, when they go to your show, they're going to say, hey, that tall guy is funny, but I don't remember his name. She said, you have to do something. You have to talk about something personal, things that
Mm,
you have to leave a piece of yourself on stage so people
mm.
remember you. And when she said that, that kind of just changed everything for me. So I started talking about not just my family, but things that, you know, bother me.
Yeah.
I don't try to get too political. But I do like to talk about social issues and it's just, things that I feel a common sense, but it just seems like we're ignoring it. I don't know what's going on in this country, but
Yeah.
so I just I try to touch on all that. I want people to laugh, but I also want them to make them think about stuff. Dave Chappelle is probably the best at doing that.
Yeah.
Um, right next to Richard Pryor, he's top for me. So.
So what's one of your most memorable moments that have you opened for someone that you're like, oh my God, this is like a
Yeah.
once in a lifetime opportunity? Like, what has been the most memorable moment for you?
It's so many. To be honest, I mean, so this is kind of a long story, but I'll get
Now
into
go
it.
ahead, give it to us.
So like I said, I was trying to get into Zanies, and I really couldn't. See, the thing is, the owners, they at the time they didn't, they were trying to make money. They
Mhm.
had younger kids. They had their own things to deal with. So they didn't really have time to come up there and study and look at the comedians, see who's,
Right.
all that other stuff. So getting into the club was, almost impossible. And the way I felt was, well, if you're not gonna let me in the front door, I'll go in through the back. If the back's closed, let me find a window. And that's kind of the attitude I took. I so I'm trying to get booked, and nobody's booking me. And I talked to the general manager one day, and I was real frustrated. And I'm just like, like, can I do a guest set on this show? And she was like, no, you can't do a guest set. I'm like, well, can somebody book me? So she was like, well, you need to talk to Ron. He's the booker. And I'm like, well, I've emailed him and he's not emailing me back. He's not telling me anything. He's not booking me. She's
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know what to tell you. And then it just feel like this was God just interceding and just telling me to pay attention. And then I feel like she was trying to help me too. She was like, you know, the only way you'll get to do a guest set on this stage is if the headliner asks for you to do it. So I was like, It was like a light bulb went off. I was like, well,
Right,
okay.
right, right.
So the first person was a guy by the name of Brandon T. Jackson. I'm trying to think of some of the movies he was in. Roll Bounce, I think he was in that with Bow Wow and he was in a couple of things. So I asked him after his show if I could do a guest set, and he was cool with it. Because the show that I asked him, it was packed. It was sold out. Well, he said, yeah, you can do tomorrow. So I got there the next night, wasn't that many people there. So I'm like, well, that's cool. I still do it though. You know?
Right.
Cool. But the next time that I asked the headliner, it was Kevin Hart. Now, this is when Kevin Hart was right there to going to that next level. He was
What year?
right
What year was this? What year was this?
2011.
Okay, yeah.
So he had he was coming in town, and he was he was in such demand. The Zanies put out an email. They didn't do any kind of promoting, anything. They just put out an email to the people on their email list. In 2 hours, he had sold out 6 shows. So it was just it was all about him. So when he came in, I hung out because I had been hanging out with them for the past 2 years. So I hung out in the back and, in the green room, and I just couldn't find a good time to ask him because there was somebody always around. So I go out and I'm waiting, and the show was over. So now I'm outside and I'm just like, well, oh well, I guess it just wasn't meant to be. So they come out as I'm getting ready to get in my car. Everybody comes out. And he's getting in the car, and I'm like, well, I still missed my opportunity. But what happened is his now wife, something that happened when she was getting in the car, and he couldn't get in, so he was outside by himself. So that's when I asked him if I could do a spot on his show. And he was cool about it. He was like, yeah, man, I got you. Come through tomorrow. You'll do the second show. And so I did the show. I went up and I mean, that dude is crazy. I can't even say what he said to him. But
I think we can all imagine it.
yeah. Dude's crazy. But so what was so dope is it's Kevin Hart. He's a huge star.
Yeah.
I go up, I do my set, I bring this guy to the stage, and like everybody's clapping, and I have a real good set. As I'm coming off stage, I still hear clapping. It's in the back though. So as I get back in the green room, it's Kev. He's clapping. He's standing up clapping for me.
Oh.
And he just pulled me to the side and is like, look, man, you asked me if you could do a guest set, and you went up there and you killed it. He was like, I love that. After he said that, I can't tell you what he was saying. Everything just went blank. He was saying something.
It was surreal.
Yeah, it was saying, I'm like, I cannot believe this. So then I didn't come back to reality until he said, so are you going to come back and do it again tomorrow? Like, yeah, absolutely. So in my mind, this dude just asked me to go on tour with him. Like, I'm like,
right.
I'm like turning down gigs now. Yeah, I'm like turning down gigs. I'm like, they like, yo, can you do this show? I'm like, hey man, man, Kev got us on. It looks like we're gonna be out the country. I can't do it. It was crazy.
Babe, get my passport.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Let's go get this luggage, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have to it was crazy. But he was real cool, and because of that, the club owner was there and he saw him. Then he started working me, and now I mean, there are a lot of people who've helped me get my name out there.
Right.
Help me get booked. But I always say he got the ball rolling. He gave me that push that I needed. So
It only takes one person.
Yeah,
It only
that's
takes
what I
one
tell
person.
people that all the time. Yeah, I tell people that all the time. You look at somebody like Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker he had maybe 10 or 15 minutes of material, and it was good though.
Yeah.
And Ice Cube song.
There you
Come here
go.
Friday, he's gone.
Well, look, I'm looking, so Netflix, we need to see you on some
Yeah,
stand-ups on some Netflix.
I'm working on
That's
all
what's
that.
next. That's what's
Yeah,
next. Oh my goodness. That's an awesome story. Thank you so much for sharing. But we are getting close to the end of our time. I just want to thank you for coming on the show,
Oh, thanks for having
sharing
me.
your story of entrepreneurship, of family, of hustle and grit, because I know this is not an easy industry to be in. And so thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
But before we go, I want you to tell everyone how they can follow you. If you've got anything coming up, any calls to action, and how they can, kind of follow you.
So if you're on Instagram or Twitter, my handle is at Third Pick Comedy. That's the number 3RDPICK Comedy. That's a whole nother situation because everybody asks me why. Huh?
I said
Everybody
we'll have a part 2.
Yeah, everybody want to know about that. But yeah, that or just look me up if you put in Mike James, comedian Mike James in Nashville on Facebook, you can find me there. Right now, I've just kind of taken a break with the whole COVID thing.
Yep.
Till at least till these numbers go down, then I'll get back out there. So that's all I'm doing.
All right. Well, I'm going to push for you. I want my audience to continue to follow you. And if you are in the Nashville area, make sure you check out the Zanie schedule, because you might see Mike James, Third Pick Comedy on there. Please go out and see him. You will have an awesome time. Your stomach will be hurting. You will be doubled over.
Thank you.
Again, Mike, thanks again for coming on and sharing your story. And I just want to also add, for everyone who's watching and listening, you can pick up the audio podcast, the Phylanice Nashe Experience, on any of your favorite podcast platforms, including Amazon and Audible, or you can simply just go to phylanicenasheexperience.com and pick up any of the audio episodes. I want to encourage everyone to go back to season 1, check out episodes 4 and 5. You'll find Mike James's wife, Alisha James, talking about her journey as an entrepreneur, as well as being his spouse as a startup spouse. And then also check out the interviews. If you want to watch them, they're on my YouTube channel, the Phylanice Nashe Experience podcast channel. And then also, if you are on the Clubhouse app, I have started hosting some roundtable discussions there every Saturday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Currently, we're talking about has starting a business cause issues in your relationship. So check us out every Saturday. Clubhouse app at 4 p.m. Central. And then just follow me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Phylanice Nashe, at all of those social media locations. And then finally, if you want to be a guest on the Phylanice Nashe podcast, click on my bio link on IG and fill out the guest interest form, and we'll be sure to get back with you. So, Mike, thank you. Everyone, thank you for tuning in, listening, and watching. And I just want to encourage everyone in 2021, the COVID has not left yet. So please wear your mask, wash your hands, and socially distance. Take care. Peace.